Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader. It's Sunday. It's time to go through some recent sales on eBay for CGC-graded key issue comics, and I kind of went all over the map with this one, and not all of them are 9.8s. We've got some Silver Age books, some Bronze and Modern books, all over the place, but just some interesting sales that I wanted to cover for those of you that are collecting slabs out there. So thanks so much to those of you that watch. I try to make one of these CGC comic book market update videos every Sunday. And here we go. Let's take a look. Here was a low-grade Fantastic Four number 5. This is obviously the origin and first appearance of Dr. Doom. This one sold in an auction from Probstein Auctions. And not the highest grade in the world, but I think it presents really nicely for a 1.8. It's a 1.8, and it is brittle pages, so, you know, there's obviously some chipping going on the cover, pieces missing, but in general, I would say that this is one of the nicer 1.8 graded Fantastic Four number 5s I've ever seen, and I thought the price was pretty affordable. I didn't pull this up versus recent sales, but going on memory, I feel like the last 1.8 I saw sell was around $2,500, so it was a little bit underneath that, and that one had 66 bids, closed at $23.75. And here's the back of the book. You can see some more chipping there and a portion missing from the upper corner. But I just think in general, given that it's not the highest grade, this is about as affordable as it gets, really, for a book that presents really nicely. And Dr. Doom is coming. We know it, and we'll see how good the movie is. And obviously the Fantastic Four are going to be here before we know it. I have high hopes for the movie, but at the same time, it's probably going to be hot garbage. I don't know. It's hard to say. The aesthetic is really cool. It's kind of like a retro vibe to it. So I'll see it for sure, but I question whether it's going to be decent or not. But I can't wait to see it. It's a totally new take, and not kind of modernized like the other Fantastic Four movies were. But that one did sell. We had a beautiful Daredevil number 1, 6.0 off-white to white pages, signed by Stan Lee. Obviously, this is the origin and first appearance of Daredevil, Matt Murdock. Great, iconic book. And that one did sell for $6,800. Big number there. But it is signed by Stan Lee. So you're going to be paying a pretty penny for that one. And the Daredevil series, the new one, is just really good. If you haven't seen it, you got to go check it out. But that one did sell, and we'll have his cohort Punisher coming up here in a little bit. Here was an X-Men number 2 from 1963. This is obviously the second appearance of the X-Men, and this was a 7.0 off-white to white pages. Beautiful book there, and that one sold for $2,035. Pretty decent value, I feel like, for, you know, an early X-Men book in a mid-grade, as most of these books I'm going to cover are. You know, one that's really dropped, obviously, is Avengers number 8 from 1964, the first appearance of Kang the Conqueror, and his time in the MCU, I think, has come and gone with all the business related to Jonathan Majors and his lawsuit and everything like that. So doubtful they ever bring Kang back. And it's a shame, because I actually liked his appearance, Jonathan Majors' portrayal in Ant-Man and Quantumania, I believe it was. I actually liked that movie. I thought it was pretty good. I know it's kind of crapped on for a lot of people, but I actually enjoyed it. It was a little bit silly in parts, but in general, I thought the portrayal of Kang was really good. And this is a great cover, and now's a good time to get this one if you're into it. This was sold by David over at Collector's Comics. And this was a pretty nice presenting copy, 7.0 off-white pages. And I've got 2 different copies of Journey into Mystery number 112. Not the biggest key issue in the world, but it's a book that I've always really liked. I've always loved this cover. It's a classic battle between Thor and the Incredible Hulk, and it's also the origin of Loki. So it's got some stuff going for it. It's from 1965, and it's a fairly affordable secondary key. But it's a great, great cover from Jack Kirby. 5.5 off-white to white pages. That one sold for $260. And then a 6.0 with cream to off-white pages sold for $300. So that's, you know, it gives you a pretty decent price range for a mid-grade Journey into Mystery number 112. You know, given how affordable it is, you probably want to consider going up in grade a little bit, maybe all the way to a 7.5 or an 8 if you can afford it. But that's a great book. That's just a great cover. Always loved that one. Another one I've really liked, Fantasy Masterpieces number 6. This is from 1966. Another Jack Kirby cover. I've got a thing for Jack Kirby covers. I just love it. And this Captain America versus Red Skull cover, really, really nice. I've always liked this cover a lot. And this was a 9.4 off-white to white pages. Again, not a major key, but just a great cover. $3.95 for that one. So you can get that one in pretty high grade for a fairly affordable price. And then we get onto the ASM books from the Silver Age and into the Bronze Age. And this is probably as big as of an ASM book that we've seen on eBay in a while. It was only a 2.5 off-white pages for ASM number 1, the second appearance of Spider-Man in comics. I mean, this is a big book. Obviously, it's got the Fantastic Four on the cover as well. And this one sold in an auction for $65.50. You know, again, not the highest grade, but no chipping to the cover, no Marvel chipping there. That's a really nice presenting copy for a 2.5. And, you know, it's a lot of money, but I still think that, you know, something like that is in, with some financial discipline, that's kind of in the realm of doability. It's when you start getting into the 5 figures is where the numbers get a little prohibitive for most collectors out there. But for a 2.5 off-white pages and a copy that is that nicely centered and without that, you know, major chipping to it, that's a really good, you know, to me, that's a good value. That's a good book right there. Some other early ASMs. I always like this one too, ASM Annual number 1. This is kind of the first appearance of the Sinister Six, where Electro, the Vulture, Kraven the Hunter, Dr. Octopus, and Sandman, they all form like a super team. And Mephisto is the other one, I think. Mysterio? Is it Mysterio or Mephisto? I can't remember. I think it's Mysterio. And the Sinister Six kind of form this super group to attack Spider-Man. 5.0 off-white to white pages. And that is, you know, a pretty good value at $11.50. Obviously, when you start getting into the higher grades, it does get prohibitively expensive for this particular book, given the early age of it. But that's another nice cover that I've always liked. Just having all the villains on one cover like that. That's a book I've always wanted as well. Speaking of Kraven the Hunter, here is his first appearance, ASM number 15 from 1964. 6.5 off-white to white pages. This book has come back down to earth, thank God, after the disaster that was the Kraven the Hunter movie. Still haven't seen it yet, but not in a big rush to see it, just given the reviews. But I do love Kraven the Hunter. I love this cover. And this one sold in an auction for $11.01 from Blizzard Comics. That's another pretty trusted seller I've bought from in the past. Beautiful book there in mid-grade. And speaking of the Punisher, here is his first appearance, ASM number 129 in a mid-grade 7.0 off-white to white pages that sold for $1,300 in an auction on one bid. I think I've got this one in a 9.2 with white pages. And that's a great cover as well. And obviously the Punisher is the Punisher. I mean, he's just an awesome dude. And, you know, from 74... probably want to go a little higher in grade, I would say, for a Bronze Age book, and try to stick to white pages if you can. But, you know, it depends on your budget, right? If your budget's not that high, then there's absolutely nothing wrong with an off-white to white 7.0 for this book. It's just a beautiful, beautiful book. Some Hulk 181s that sold, and I've got a data point for my own sale that I'll throw in here at the end. But this was a 7.0 off-white to white pages that sold in an auction for $31.19. A little bit of an overwrap on the left-hand side, but obviously this is the first appearance of Wolverine, first full appearance. Incredible Hulk number 181 from 74. And this 8.5 off-white to white pages sold in an auction for $4,800. Again, with an overwrap. I had an 8.5 white pager that I just sold a couple weeks ago, and mine's got a better wrap. I mean, it's a pretty pristine copy, and I sold mine at $5,000. You know, away from eBay to a buddy of mine. So I thought my price was fair, given that this off-white to white sold for $4,800 in the same grade, and mine was an 8.5, better wrap, better presenting copy, with white pages, so I felt like he got a pretty fair deal. And it didn't last long. I mean, I listed it on Rogue 5 Toys, and it was gone in less than an hour. So I thought I priced it right on the money. So congrats to Dennis on that. I hope you enjoy that copy. $4,800 though for this off-white to white pager in an auction. This was another nice one. Charlie Cox signed Daredevil, and it's also signed by the Punisher by John Bernthal. 9.6 white pager newsstand edition for Daredevil number 183. This is the first meeting of Daredevil and Punisher. I would like to get that signed by both of them in a 9.8 on this book. That would be really nice. But this 9.6 is not a bad deal at $561. You know, you're paying for the signatures there. I mean, that's a pretty awesome deal there. I like the white signature on the Punisher and then the red for Charlie Cox's Daredevil signature. That's a nice book for a 9.8, but I mean for a 9.6 newsstand. But I would love to have that one in a 9.8 signed by both of them. That's a great cover. And another one, I'm so glad I did not see this one. This seller had some beautiful other signed books. He had, this Daredevil 183 was by this same seller, and he had a few others that were just awesome. This is the one I really wanted, and I'm so glad I did not see it, because this is one of my favorite covers from Mike Zeck as it relates to the G.I. Joe vintage Marvel run. This is G.I. Joe number 49, the first appearance of Serpentor, signed by the cover artist Mike Zeck, who is one of my favorite cover artists. It's also signed by Larry Hama, who came up with G.I. Joe, and then it's also signed by Brian Cummings, who voiced Dr. Mindbender in the cartoon. I mean, if I had seen this, I can tell you with 100% certainty, if I had seen this book at auction, I would have bid on it. There's no doubt in my mind. I would have paid way more than $265 for it. Because Dr. Mindbender is one of my favorites. I don't know why, but he is. Destro, obviously, is one of my favorites. And then you got it signed by Mike Zeck, one of my favorite cover artists. So this book really should have been in my collection, but I'm just trying not to spend any money right now. So I'm you know, sort of, you know, bittersweet on this. All right. I'm glad I didn't see it because I didn't want to spend the money. But man, that book has got everything going for it. This is exactly the kind of book I want to get. I'm not saying it's going to be worth anything long term, but this is the kind of book I would want in my collection because of what it is, you know, and I don't really care what I resell it for down the line. But that's a great deal at $265. I would have paid way more. I would have paid $365 for that book. Great book there. He also had, or she also had this one signed by Peter Cullen, who voiced Optimus Prime, and then Frank Welker, who voiced, oh my God, Megatron. Sorry, my brain's not working. This is a 9.6 newsstand edition of Transformers number 1. So that's a great book too. Sold for a big number at $1,400, but you know, a 9.8 newsstand unsigned, you know, you're probably pushing $2,000-ish, somewhere in there. A direct edition 9.8 is probably in the ballpark of $1,000 to $1,100, in you know, somewhere in there. So you're getting the two major signatures from the cartoon on a 9.6 newsstand. That's probably about right. That's probably a number I'd pay. That's a great book there as well. So that seller's got some beautiful autograph books. I've never bought from this seller, but this seller's got a bunch of others up for sale on their page on eBay with, you know, mostly signature series books. Spawn number 1 in a newsstand. Look how crazy this one has dropped. This one was going for $1,000 not that long ago. 9.8 newsstand for Spawn number 1, $600. What a great deal. Great price on that. And quite honestly, in an auction, you can probably get it in the $5s now. I mean, that's a good deal for a newsstand Spawn number 1. Some big boy Batman books sold. And this is one of my favorites. I've got 2 of these in my collection. I've got a 7.0 white pager and then a 9.2 off-white to white for Batman number 227, a pretty famous Neil Adams cover. And I still pull these out occasionally and just look at them. I just love this book. It is an awesome book. This was a 7.5 off-white to white pager that sold at $13.49. Good price there. That's a good, healthy price, given, you know, the comic market has downturn. You know, there's been a downturn in prices, but, you know, I bought my 7.0, gosh, probably 2 years ago now, and I paid about somewhere around $950 or $1,000, somewhere in that ballpark. And, to see and that was a white pager. And this is a 7.5 off white to white. To see that go for, 35% higher, I feel pretty good about that number, where I bought mine. So this is a beautiful book, though. And if you don't, if you're into Neal Adams books, this is a must-have. You got to have this book in your collection. And speaking of Neal Adams, here's another one in my collection. I've got this exact book, I believe. I think mine's a 9.2 with white pages for Batman number 251. This is kind of the first time the Joker is portrayed as a homicidal maniac in lieu of more of a buffoonish clown. That's how he'd kind of been portrayed up until this time frame. And, this is obviously a pretty classic cover. It's been redone to death in different variations, but this is Batman number 251 from 1973. Again, another Neal Adams cover. And that one sold for $15.78. That book's come down. That book, I think mine 9.2, I paid closer to $1,700 for mine. But mine does have a better wrap than this. But, tomato. This is a book that's worth having in your collection as well. It's a little bit easier to find in higher grade than, Batman number 227. You're going to be paying a pretty penny in high grade for that book. But this one is another one that's kind of a must-have if you're a Neal Adams fan. We got another data point for Batman Adventures 12, going into some modern books here. We've got, obviously the first appearance of Harley Quinn in comics, another classic cover. And, it's from 1993, but this is one worth having in the collection, in my opinion. And this price is actually up. This sold at an auction for $17.75. If you remember, we covered this one in a recent comic book market update, and it was in the 1600-ish range. So that number is up a little bit. This one is a beautiful copy, and definitely one I'm happy to have in my collection. Would love to get a newsstand for this eventually to kind of pair with my direct. This is a modern book that it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's one I've always wanted. I don't know why, but it's Silver Surfer Black number 2. This is a SDCC exclusive Kamen cover version variant, and it's kind of like a venomized Silver Surfer, if you will. And I don't know, for me, I've always just wanted this cover. I just love this book, and it's really come back down to earth. This used to be 4 figures, over $1,000, and this 9.8 white pager sold for $510. So getting to where I might have to pull the cover. Yeah, carnageized cover. Not venomized, carnageized. But that's just one of those modern books that it's been on my radar for a while, and the price is getting now to where I might have to pull the trigger on it. And it may not be this year, but this is definitely one. I don't know why. I can't tell you why. It's just I've always wanted to have it in my collection. And then finally, I've got yet another New Mutants 98 direct edition sale to give you guys an idea of how much this book continues to fall. This one sold in an auction for $885. $885 for Deadpool's first appearance in a direct edition. So, again, I think now's a pretty decent time to pick it up. I mean, there's thousands of these in a 9.8 on the census. So, to me, I think the newsstand is the way to go, but you're going to be paying quite a bit more for it. $2,000, $2,200, somewhere in there. But if that's out of your budget, then a 9.8 direct edition would be the way to go. I wouldn't mess with anything below a 9.8 on this book, just given how many of them there are on the census. But I feel like now's a pretty decent time. This, 2 months ago was $1,000, and then it was $950, and then it was $900. Now we're at $885. I'd pay that. I'd pay that number right now. So I've got a lot of books on my want list that are probably going to happen at some point, but not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. But this is definitely one I'd like to pick up in a newsstand. Anyway, just some recent sales for CGC graded books, kind of all over the map with this one. I hope you enjoyed this look. Thank you, as always, for watching. Don't forget to leave me a like if you did, and I'll be back soon.